All right, so we have knitted all of our stitches, and this is approximately 3 inches long, but you can make it as long as you'd like for your bookmark. This is a relatively thin bookmark, and you can make it as long as you'd like. For us, we're going to make it about 2.5, 3 inches. And we're ready to do the reverse of casting on, which is binding off. Sometimes you'll also hear it called casting off. So if you hear either of those terms, binding off or casting off, those are the same thing. And it's the process of removing our knitting from the needle. So to remove our knitting from the needle, the first thing we have to do is we have to knit 2 stitches. So we're going to go ahead and just knit those 2 stitches in the same way that we've been knitting. Hopefully it's starting to feel a little bit more comfortable for you. I'm going to go ahead and knit those first 2 stitches. Alright, so knit the first 2 stitches. Now I'm going to take the 2 stitches on my working needle and I'm going to start to manipulate them. So I have these 2 stitches. I have one that's closer to the point, that's my upper stitch, and one that's further from the point, that's my lower stitch. Taking my needle that has my cast on stitches, or my original needle, I'm going to place the tip into the lower stitch. It's a little awkward because you're kind of going in the wrong way. And then I pull it over the topmost stitch and over the point of my needle. And I should be left with just 1 stitch on the needle. So let's do that again. I knit another stitch. And then with my original needle, I'm going to go ahead and take that point, go into, from the top, the lower stitch on my working needle, and draw that stitch over the topmost stitch and over the point of the needle. Again, this is a little awkward when you're first starting. All right, let's do that again. Knit another stitch. I have 2 stitches on my needle again. Take the non-working needle, go into the top of the lowermost stitch, bring it over the topmost stitch and over the point, and you're left with 1 stitch on your needle. One more time. Knit a stitch, and I should be left with a needle that has no stitches on it, and then a needle that has 2 stitches here. We're going to go into the bottommost stitch from the top, bring it over the topmost stitch, and then over the tip. And I'm left with just 1 stitch on my needle, and I can put my other needle down. From this point, we're going to have to cut this yarn. So I'm going to go ahead and get out my scissors. And any scissors will do, if you have paper scissors or any kind of scissors that you're working with. And you want to give yourself enough yarn so that you can weave in the ends. I'm going to just give probably about 3 inches, 3 to 6 inches at the most, and go ahead and just cut it. Boom. And now I have completely free, I have this bookmark, and I have 1 stitch remaining on the needle with a little bit of a tail. The next thing I have to do is I have to get out a darning needle. These are sometimes also called tapestry needles. And you just want a needle with a blunt end. Sometimes they have a curved end like this one, which is quite useful. And then an eye that's big enough for your yarn. And I'm going to thread the yarn through the eye of the needle. And then you have this 1 stitch. We're going to thread our needle through the 1 stitch. And I usually like to take out my needle before I've totally threaded the yarn through, or the needle through, because if you do that, you have a chance to tighten up the yarn around it, and you won't have so much slack. Then I'm going to feed the needle the remainder of the way through, and basically creating a knot. I'm just going to tighten that up a little bit again, and then feed it all the way through. And just make a nice tight Nice tight knot at the end there. And there you go, we've got our bookmark. Now we're ready to weave in the ends.